June 5th, 1944. A damp hedgerow lane south of Dorchester, England. The rain has been coming in sideways all morning. A fine, needling drizzle that seeps through wool and canvas and into bone. Mud sucks at boots, puddles shine under blackout skies, and the air smells of wet earth, petrol, and nervous sweat. A small shape growls up the lane with a sound that is half sewing machine, half angry bee. Headlights are hooded, just faint slits of yellow cutting through the mist. You hear it before you see it, 4 cylinders working hard, gears whining as the driver eases around a line of parked trucks and half-tracks. Then it appears, squat, open-topped, canvas flapping, the hood slick with rain. A Jeep. Second Lieutenant Jack Mercer, 29th Infantry Division, is hunched behind the narrow steering wheel, his steel helmet tilted forward, chin strap loose against his cheek. His raincoat is darkened to almost black, the shoulders shiny with water. Beside him, a radio operator cradles an SCR 536 handy-talkie and a folded map case, boots braced against the Jeep's metal floor as they bump through ruts. In the back, lashed down with webbing and rope, is a radio set in a wooden crate, a bundle of rolled signal flags, and a fuel can stenciled "Gasoline" in white letters already speckled with mud. Hanging off the side, a rifle in a scabbard, oiled canvas cover beaded with rain. The Jeep sways, springs, squeaking as it drops into a pothole and climbs out again. Mercer works the short gear lever with practiced ease, clutch in, shift, clutch out, barely thinking about it now. 70 miles an hour on a good road, the quarter-ton 4x4 had promised on paper. Out here, on this lane, it's more like 12, but it moves, and today, that's everything. Up ahead, a tent made of green canvas disappears into the hedgerow. A field telephone wire runs out of it, strung between pegs, vanishing into the mud. This is the division command post, as temporary as everything else in this country of staging areas and airfields. Mercer brakes, the Jeep's nose dipping slightly, and the little vehicle settles into a puddle with a slap of water. The engine idles in a rough, steady rhythm, exhaust puffing white. He pulls the handbrake, kills the switch, and in the sudden quiet, you can still hear the tick-tick-tick of hot metal cooling in the damp air. No one looking at it now would guess that this machine, this open, exposed little box barely higher than a man's chest, started as a problem in a file folder back in Washington. A light reconnaissance car, the Army had called it. A temporary answer, a stopgap, until something better came along. Mercer swings his legs out, boots hitting mud, and you see how low the Jeep really is. Barely more than a frame, 4 wheels, a sheet metal body, and a stubby nose. No doors, no fancy bodywork, just slabs of steel and flat fenders you can sit on, stand on, or use as a table if you're desperate. In the brief silence before he heads into the tent, he glances back at it. He's already used this same Jeep to do 3 different jobs in a single day. In the gray just before dawn, it was a reconnaissance car, bouncing along farm tracks as he and a sergeant checked likely routes toward the coast. An hour later, with a different officer riding shotgun and the radio crate wired up in the back, it became a mobile command car. The division staff firing off last-minute adjustments to unit positions, while the Jeep idled in the rain. And, just after noon, someone had casually suggested, "If the roads get jammed, we strap a stretcher across the back. Instant ambulance." He'd laughed then, but not for long. Because in 1944, every man here had heard the same stories. Jeeps pulling artillery across river fords where trucks bogged down. Jeeps bristling with machine guns turned into makeshift gun platforms. Jeeps loaded with wounded, with stretchers tied sideways over the back so the wheels could keep turning. A temporary solution that kept finding permanent ways to keep men alive or to take them into danger faster than anything else. Mercer ducks into the tent, taking the muffled world of maps and murmured voices with him. Outside, the Jeep waits in the gloom, rain running off its hood, paint dulled, windshield half spotted with mud. It wasn't built to be beautiful. It was built to be enough. 4 years earlier, no one had even agreed on what enough looked like. Fall 1940. Somewhere, far from these hedgerows, in offices crowded with cigarette smoke and blueprints, the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps had issued a challenge to American industry. Design a light, four-wheel drive reconnaissance vehicle, able to carry a small crew and equipment, fast enough to keep up with tanks, tough enough to survive bad roads or no roads at all. It had to weigh under 1.25 tons. It had to climb hills, ford streams, and start in the cold. And it had to be ready now. 75 days to deliver the first prototype, the specifications said. A near impossible deadline. On drawing boards in Butler, Pennsylvania, the engineers at American Bantam worked day and night, sketching frames and axles and transfer cases, trying to turn a list of demands into a machine that could exist. Their draftsmen slept on cots in the office, rising with reddened eyes to draw one more line, erase one more flaw. They couldn't afford elegance. They could only afford solutions. A flat fender that could be stamped quickly, a folding windshield that could be dropped in seconds, a boxy body with straight lines, every panel easy to replace if it caught shrapnel or slammed into a stone wall. A simple, rugged engine that could be serviced in the field with tools you could carry in a canvas roll. On a cool autumn morning, when the first prototype rolled off the line and out into the yard, it looked almost ridiculous, too small, too upright, like a toy compared to the big trucks parked nearby. But when they put it into gear and let it loose over ruts, through mud, up an embankment that should have stopped it cold, the little machine kept going. Somewhere between one bounce and the next, it stopped being a sketch and became a possibility. Back in England, as dusk settles over the hedgerows and the rain eases to a mist, Mercer emerges from the command tent, orders stuffed into his map case. Engines are starting all along the lane, trucks coughing to life, staff cars edging forward. He jogs to the Jeep, swings into the driver's seat, and with a twist of the ignition and a stomp on the starter, brings the engine back from its brief rest. The whole vehicle shudders, then settles into that familiar chattering idle. Tomorrow, it will carry him toward the coast and whatever waits beyond it. Tonight, it's just a Jeep. A temporary answer, pressed into permanent service. The little Jeep idles in the English darkness, rain dripping from its canvas seats, while somewhere else years earlier, and an ocean away, another one fights its way up a Maryland hillside. October 1940. Camp Holabird, just outside Baltimore. The sky is low and gray, the ground churned into mud by days of testing. Officers in long overcoats stand with clipboards, collars turned up, watching a small, stubby-nosed machine claw its way up an incline that looks more like a wall than a road. A civilian test driver in a leather helmet hunches over the wheel, jaw clenched. The prototype Bantam's answer to the Army's impossible specification growls in low gear, front wheels pawing at the dirt. For a moment, it seems to hang there, halfway up, engine straining. Then, with a spray of mud and a lurch that jolts everyone watching, it scrabbles over the lip and disappears from view. One of the officers lets out a low whistle. Another scribbles something on his clipboard. Steep grade test passed. Around them, enlisted men murmur to each other, half impressed, half skeptical. You can almost hear the doubts. It's too small. It's too simple. It'll never last in real combat. But over the following days, the little Bantam prototype refuses to quit. It fords streams up to its hubs. It weaves through slaloms of posts. It drags a light gun behind it like a stubborn pony pulling a toy cart. It turns in a tighter circle than any truck here, nose swinging, wheels biting, as if it's happy just to be in motion. Still, the Army is wary. Bantam is a small company. Re-arming a growing army, possibly for a global war, will need more than clever designs and exhausted draftsmen. It will need production real, industrial-scale production. So the blueprints travel west, And Willys Overland in Toledo and Ford in Dearborn study the same problem Bantam solved in a rush. Build a light reconnaissance machine that can go anywhere, survive anything, and be fixed by any motor pool on Earth. In factory drafting rooms lit by green lamps, Willys engineers trace and revise Bantam's ideas. They thicken frame rails, tweak angles, beef up the engine. Their Go Devil power plant, an inline four-cylinder with a little more horsepower than Bantam's, becomes the beating heart of what will soon be known as the Willys MA, and later, the MB. Flat hood, folding windshield, slat grille giving way to a stamped steel face with 9 slots, then 7. Each change is a conversation between paper and reality. Can a soldier pull this part off with a single wrench? Can a mechanic reach that bolt without taking half the vehicle apart? Can the whole thing be lifted, pushed, manhandled out of a ditch by a handful of men? Back at Camp Holabird, new contenders arrive. Willys shows up with their MA. Ford brings the GP. They line up like recruits on parade variants, on the same squat, purposeful theme. The test drivers climb in, officers nod, clipboards come back out. Another round of abuse begins. Mud, hills, water, sand. You are there now, in the passenger seat of a Willys during a brake test, fingers gripping the metal dash as the driver slams the pedal and the world pitches forward. When you step out, your boots hit the ground, and you can see it up close. The stamped steel, the welded seams, the way everything seems just a little too thin, and yet somehow right. No ornament, no curve that doesn't need to be there. In December 1941, after months of trials, arguments, and adjustments, the U.S. Army standardizes the design. Willys gets the primary contract. Ford, under license, will build its own version, the GPW, so identical that parts can be swapped between the two with barely a thought. On paper, it's the truck, 1/4 ton, 4x4, command reconnaissance. In practice, it starts to earn a shorter name, Jeep. Ask 10 men where that word came from, and you'll get 11 answers. Some swear it's from the old Popeye cartoon character Eugene the Jeep, a strange creature that could go anywhere and do anything. Others say it's just the slurred way mechanics wrote GP for general purpose on work orders and motor pool logs. Whatever the origin, the name sticks faster than any official designation. To the men who will drive them, patch them together with wire and tape, and curse them when they won't start on cold mornings, they're simply Jeeps. Spring 1942, Toledo, Ohio. On the assembly lines at the Willys plant, the air is hot and metallic, thick with the smell of cutting oil and hot steel. Sparks shower from welders' torches. Overhead cranes slide frame rails into place. Men in khaki coveralls and cloth caps lift axles, bolt-on leaf springs, thread wiring harnesses through skeletal frames. You walk past a line where olive drab bodies meet rolling chassis, where 4 bare wheels become a machine. The process is quick, almost brutal. Lower the body, fasten the bolts, attach the steering wheel, fit the seats. Gasoline splashes into tanks. A worker reaches in, twists a key, and the newborn Jeep coughs, sputters, then settles into that familiar, chattering idle. Another one ready, and another, and another. On a wall by the line, a map of the world is peppered with thumbtacks. North Africa, England, Hawaii, Australia. Beside each, someone has scrawled a number. Shipments sent, vehicles in transit. It's a quiet reminder, these aren't just products. They're pieces of something bigger, about to be scattered across continents. Back in England, in that hedgerow lane, Lieutenant Jack Mercer doesn't know the details of Toledo's dance of cranes and wrenches. He only knows that his Jeep starts when he hits the switch, pulls when he drops into low gear, and takes punishment that would cripple something fancier. Tonight, after dark, he pulls it off the lane and into a makeshift motor pool, a farmer's field, churned into a mess of ruts and puddles. Under a camouflage net, A staff sergeant named O'Hara, sleeves rolled up, leans over another jeep with a wrench in his hand, a cigarette smoldering at the corner of his mouth. "Sir," O'Hara grunts as Mercer kills the engine and hops down. "Treat her right and she'll take you places a staff car wouldn't dare." He pats the fender affectionately. "Ain't pretty, but she's ours." Tomorrow, this same machine might be asked to do something new. Haul ammunition, tow a gun, or carry wounded men away from a beachhead that doesn't exist on any civilian map. Because for the Jeep, the war is about to open up into something far bigger than muddy test tracks and English lanes. It is about to find out what any road, anywhere really means. November 23rd, 1942. Somewhere south of Tabourba, Tunisia. The desert night is cold enough to bite through wool. The stars so sharp they look like they could cut skin. A thin, chalky moon hangs over a landscape of low ridges and broken ground. In the distance, artillery thumps slow, lazy sounding, like someone slamming a door in another town. Down on the valley floor, a jeep crawls along a barely visible track between clumps of scrub. Its headlights are painted over, leaving only slitted beams that slide over rocks and clatter across dry stream beds. The canvas top is rolled back. The sky feels close enough to touch. Sergeant Bill Haskins, 1st Battalion, Armored Infantry, has a white-knuckle grip on the wheel, goggles pushed up onto his helmet, sand crusted in the webbing of his harness. Beside him, Corporal Diaz cradles an M1919, a 4 machine gun, the barrel sticking out over the Jeep's hood, clamped to a pedestal mount that wasn't part of the original design. Someone in the motor pool welded it on last month. Someone else wrapped the handles in tape. Now it's part of the vehicle, as natural as the steering column. In the back, clattering softly with each bump, 4 ammo boxes share space with a jerry can and a pair of bedrolls. "Left, Sarge," Diaz mutters, pointing toward a darker notch in the ridge. "If we cut there, we can see the wadi." Haskins taps the brake, drops into low range on the transfer case, and turns. The Jeep leans, suspension flexing, and you can feel the wheels searching for grip on loose stones. A concertina of springs, frame, and metal floor transmits every bump straight into your spine. It's miserable. It's perfect. They crest the low rise, stop just short of the skyline, and kill the engine. The sudden silence is like someone throwing a blanket over your head. They listen, wind whispering over rocks, a far-off clank of armor, the faint murmur of men in a bivouac down in the hollow. Diaz swings the machine gun around, scanning the dark. The Jeep's silhouette is tiny, narrow, easy to tuck behind a rock or into a fold in the ground. It's not armored, not protected. But it's here, now, where a larger truck would have bogged down miles back. A flicker of light, far below headlamps hurriedly doused. German trucks feeling their way along the same dry riverbed. Diaz leans over the hood, eyes narrowed. "Get the grid," Haskins murmurs. "We'll let the big boys handle it." Minutes later, the Jeep is in motion again, slipping back toward the American lines. In the morning, artillery will pound that wadi. And nobody will mention the little 4x4 that went out into the dark to find it first. 2 days later, the same Jeep is doing something else entirely. The sun is a brutal white disk overhead, the desert a shimmering field of tan and gold. The air smells of dust and cordite. Haskins' Jeep now has a different load. The tongue of a 37mm anti-tank gun rattles in the pintle hitch, its narrow wheels bouncing along behind. A gun crew rides perched on the fenders and tailgate, boots hooked wherever they can find leverage. "Hang on!" Haskins shouts as he guns the engine up a rocky incline. The Jeep digs in, front wheels climbing, the gun fishtailing wildly. For a heartbeat, it feels like everything will come apart. Then the top of the rise falls away behind them, and they level out on firmer ground. They swing the Jeep broadside, brake hard. Before the dust has even settled, the gun crew is already dropping off, unhitching the piece, muscling it into position. In less than a minute, the little anti-tank gun is emplaced, barrel pointed toward a gap in the ridgeline, where someone expects trouble to come. The Jeep's engine never fully cools. It idles, snorts, then darts away again, off to fetch more ammo, more men, another job. Months later and hundreds of miles north, the landscape changes, but the work doesn't. December 1943, somewhere in the Italian Apennines. Snow clings to pine branches, and the mountain air cuts like broken glass in the lungs. The road is more suggestion than fact, a ribbon of mud and slush carved into the side of a steep slope, one error away from a very long fall. A Jeep claws its way upward, chains clinking on its tires. This one wears a red cross painted on its hood and sides. The windshield is down, the glass long since cracked by a flying stone, replaced by goggles and scarves wrapped tight against the cold. In the driver's seat, Private First Class Angelo Rossi leans forward, eyes narrowed, boots feathering the pedals. The weight behind him is precious and fragile. Two stretchers laid sideways across the rear, lashed at their corners, each bearing a blanket-wrapped shape. Another injured man sits hunched on the front passenger seat, hand pressed to a bandage at his thigh. "Almost there!" Rossi shouts over the engine, though he can barely hear himself. The Jeep pants like a tired animal, exhaust hanging whitely in the air. They round a bend, wheels slipping for a terrifying instant near the edge. Somewhere below, far down in the valley, an ambulance truck waits on relatively level ground, its larger frame unable to climb this invisible staircase of ruts and switchbacks. So the Jeep goes where the truck cannot, becoming an ambulance by nothing more than rope, planks, and necessity. Rossi feels the stretcher behind him shift as they jolt over a rock. "Easy, easy." A medic barks from the rear, one hand on a patient's shoulder, the other gripping the tailgate. Rossi eases off the throttle, teeth chattering. When they finally reach the waiting truck, the medic hops down, joints stiff, and helps slide the stretchers from one vehicle to the other. No ceremony, no pause, just motion, and the quiet hope that faster movement here might mean a better chance in the field hospital down the mountain. Across the world, in a jungle half a planet away, the Jeep wears yet another face. July 1944, Bougainville, in the Pacific. Here, the problem isn't cold or dust. It's humidity so thick it feels like breathing soup. Mud that can swallow a boot to the ankle, and vegetation eager to swallow everything else. On a hacked-out trail between coconut palms and tall grass, a Jeep creeps forward in low gear, the engine fan hissing as it fights to cool in the heavy air. Lianas brush the sides, leaves slap the driver's arms. A machete hangs from the dash, its blade nicked and stained with sap half-tool, half-extra limb for beating back the jungle. Riding in back, a Navy lieutenant with binoculars around his neck braces himself against the roll bar. Beside him sits a field telephone, strapped into a wooden box. The Jeep's hood is crowded with extra gear. A coiled rope, a rolled-up tarp, a spare can of water. Up front, on the fender, someone has painted a name in white, Any Road. The Jeep stops at a small clearing where engineers have marked a future airstrip out of trees and hope. The lieutenant hops down, glassing the tree line, talking into the phone. For the next few hours, this open-topped, unarmored machine is a command post, short-range, improvised, but enough. Orders are given, units are shifted. A bulldozer roars to life nearby, carving into the earth. The Jeep sits in the shade, engine ticking, ready to sprint messages along newly cut tracks as soon as anyone needs them moved faster than a man can run. Across deserts, mountains, and jungles, the shape remains the same. Flat hood, open sides, 4 driven wheels under a simple steel tub. But with each new task, the Jeep sheds another piece of its original label. Reconnaissance car, gun tractor, ambulance, command car, weapons platform, taxi, mule, lifeboat. By the time the war reaches its bloodiest beaches, no one bothers to argue about what the Jeep was meant to be. They only care what it can do next. June 6th, 1944. 944, just off Omaha Beach, Normandy. The sea is a churned-up mess of gray-green waves and diesel fumes. The sky is low, smeared with smoke and tracer fire. Inside a landing craft tank, an LCT, men are jammed shoulder to shoulder among steel and rivets, the air thick with damp wool, fear, and the sour reek of burned cordite drifting in from the shoreline. Up near the bow, lashed to tie-down points and smeared with salty spray, sits a jeep. Its olive drab paint is mottled with chalk marks from embarkation crews, its hood now wearing a hastily bolted-on deep wading kit, steel tubes rising like periscopes from the air intake and exhaust. The windshield is folded flat and covered in burlap, a compromise between visibility and survival. In the driver's seat, Lieutenant Jack Mercer pulls his helmet strap a little tighter. The same Jeep that once idled in an English hedgerow now shudders under his hands as the LCT slams into another wave. Beside him, a radio operator grips the dash with one hand, the other steadying the SCR 610 set bolted into the rear. Cables snake forward to a whip antenna folded down along the side. "Ready to go, sir," the ramp officer shouts over the engine roar and the distant thunder of guns. Mercer doesn't bother answering. He reaches down, checks that the Jeep is still in neutral, foot hovering over the clutch. Outside, the world explodes in noise, a crescendo of artillery, machine gun chatter, and the vicious hiss of incoming shells. The LCT grinds forward, then stops with a juddering crash as its bow kisses sand. There's a heartbeat of stillness. Then the ramp slams down and reality rushes in. Gray water, brown sand, black smoke, flashes of orange and white where shells hit. "Go, go, go!" someone screams. Mercer twists the key, hits the starter. The engine coughs, catches, and the Jeep lurches forward, springs compressing as it rolls down the ramp and into cold seawater that reaches halfway up the wheels. You feel the shock of it, the resistance, the way the vehicle seems to hesitate then dig in, the prop wash pushing at its flanks. For a moment, the Jeep looks absurdly small against the vastness of the beach and the height of the bluffs beyond. A toy car driven into a nightmare painting. Then it climbs out of the surf, water streaming off its frame, engine howling in low gear. Bullets snap overhead. A shell lands somewhere to the right, a towering splash and a hammer blow of sound. Mercer steers toward a low line of obstacles and half-buried mines, aiming for the narrow gap engineers have begun to carve with explosives and wire cutters. The Jeep's job here isn't glory, it's movement. They reach a shallow depression where other vehicles have bogged down, wheels spinning uselessly in the churned-up sand. Mercer drops into four-wheel drive, feels the Jeep squat, claws biting. The little 4X 4Bucks slides, then hauls itself forward, sand spraying behind it in twin rooster tails. They make it through. Behind them, a bigger truck fails, its rear axle sinking. The Jeep surges on, passing helmeted shapes hugging the ground, a medic bent over a wounded man, an engineer wrestling with a roll of wire. By the time Mercer reaches the relative shelter of a shingle bank and a half-collapsed seawall, the Jeep has already become what the plan demanded, a rolling nerve center. The radio operator pops the antenna up, clamps his headphones on, and starts threading messages between beach and ships and higher headquarters. Positions of German strongpoints, gaps in the wire, artillery requests, confusion, compressed into coordinates and call signs. All of it carried here on 4 narrow tires and a 40-horsepower engine. Hours later, the beachhead behind them, the same Jeep rattles up a muddy farm track inland. Its cargo changed again. 3 boxes of .30 caliber ammunition and 2 jerry cans of gasoline lashed hastily in back. They dodge shell holes, weave around stalled half-tracks, and squeeze past a column of infantry hugging the roadside. "Make a hole for the Jeep," someone shouts. It's not respect for a vehicle, it's respect for what it's carrying. Over the next weeks and months, across hedgerows and fields, choked with Norman dust and shattered orchard fences, Jeeps become the bloodstream of the invasion. Military police use them as mobile traffic towers, white-helmeted MPs standing on the rear seats, flags in hand, directing the tidal flow of men and materiel. They park at crossroads, a simple sign on the hood pointing toward front or supply, keeping the endless columns moving. Artillery forward observers crouch in their seats, binoculars pressed to their faces as they bounce from one vantage point to another. When the Jeep stops, they're on the hood in seconds, maps spread under their hands, shouting corrections into phones while the world trembles to the rhythm of friendly guns. Engineers load theirs with boxes of explosives and coils of detonation cord, turning them into demolition wagons. Chaplains stack theirs with folding altars and crates of small Bibles. Some units lash stretchers along the sides, creating makeshift side-loading ambulances that can snatch wounded from roadside ditches where full-sized vehicles dare not linger. By September 1944, as Operation Market Garden pushes north through the Netherlands, a different kind of Jeep runs the length of a narrow raised highway the men simply call Hell's Highway. The road is a vulnerable ribbon of asphalt perched above low fields and drainage ditches. German fire can rake it from either side. Convoys choke it, nose to tail. Tanks, trucks, trailers. In the middle of this chaos, Jeeps thread through like water, finding cracks in stone. A British airborne officer, red beret tucked under his shoulder strap, clings to a Jeep's windshield frame as it jounces over shell craters. The driver weaves between stalled lorries, their drivers crouched low, as small arms fire snaps from the tree line. In back, a runner hunches over a satchel stuffed with orders, maps, and situation reports that must reach a battalion cut off up the road. Twice they jam the brakes as mortar rounds stomp into the fields nearby, gouts of dirt rising. Once, the Jeep skids halfway into a ditch before the driver yanks it back onto the crown of the road, tires scrabbling for grip. No armor, no heavy guns, just speed, agility, and the insane logic that a small, fast target has a better chance than a big, slow one. By the winter of 1944-45, during the Battle of the Bulge, Jeeps are doing yet another job. Ghosts in the snow. On forest tracks under skeletal trees, their engines muffled with snow-soaked tarps, they creep forward at night with reconnaissance patrols. The white shapes of camouflage-smocked infantry ride low, faces wrapped in scarves, rifles cradled. The Jeep's narrow tires cut two clean lines into the powder. Easier to hide, easier to abandon if the situation turns bad. Sometimes they come back with prisoners huddled in the rear, hands on helmets. Sometimes with wounded, lying stiff under blankets. Sometimes they don't come back at all. From Normandy's beaches to Belgium's frozen roads, the Jeep keeps doing what it was never officially designed to do. It bridges gaps between plan and reality, between what commanders wish they had and what they actually possess. And as the Allies push into Germany itself, towards cities pounded flat and forests shredded by months of fighting, the little quarter-ton truck takes on one more unexpected role: symbol. To civilians emerging from cellars and ruins, it is often the first Allied vehicle they see up close, small enough to pull into a town square, nimble enough to climb a pile of rubble, open enough that the faces of the men riding it are visible and human. A British sapper sitting on the fender, boots swinging. An American lieutenant perched on the rear panel, helmet pushed back, sharing a cigarette with a local teenager. A French resistance fighter standing on the running board, scarf fluttering as the Jeep rolls past cheering crowds. The tank might be the image of force, but the Jeep, dusty and loud and absurdly exposed, becomes the image of a rival. April 19th, 1945. On the outskirts of a small German town near the Elbe. The war is not quite over, but it's starting to feel like someone has taken their hand off the world's throat. The artillery is more distant now, the sky less crowded with smoke. The streets bear the scars: collapsed roofs, broken windows, walls pocked with shrapnel. Down what used to be the main street, A Jeep clatters over broken cobblestones. Its tires crunch across fallen brick and shattered glass. Springs squeaking. An American star is painted on the hood, faded and scuffed. A strip of white cloth flutters from the radio antenna, quick recognition in a place where uniforms and languages are blending in confusing ways. In the driver's seat, Lieutenant Jack Mercer leans forward, scanning doorways and upper windows, hand resting lightly on the wheel. A Thompson submachine gun lies on the passenger's floor, within easy reach. In back, the Jeep carries a strange mix. A radio set, a canvas bag full of maps, 2 jerry cans, and, jammed in beside them, a crate of K-rations that someone insisted they deliver to a nearby aid station. Children peer from behind doorframes as the Jeep passes, eyes wide, fingers tight on the hands of mothers and grandparents. An old man lifts his hat, half salute, half reflexive politeness. Mercer gives a small wave back, the gesture awkward in his gloved hand. They reach the town square, what's left of it. A statue lies on its side, its stone face chipped away. The fountain is dry, cluttered with debris. A Red Cross flag hangs over the doorway of the former town hall, now an improvised clinic. Mercer eases the Jeep to a stop beside a line of other vehicles. A battered 2.5-ton truck, an ambulance, another Jeep with its hood up, and a mechanic elbow deep in its engine bay. "Park it there, Lieutenant," the medic in charge calls, waving them in. "We'll unload and send you right back out." The words are casual, but the meaning is the same as it has always been. This machine doesn't stay still for long. As they lower the crate from the Jeep's rear, a British major steps out of the town hall, greatcoat unbuttoned, beret tilted to one side. He studies the little vehicle for a moment, then nods toward it. "Never thought I'd say this about an American contraption," he remarks dryly. "But if you wanted to draw a picture of what this war actually looks like on the ground, you'd sketch that thing, not a tank." Mercer glances back at his Jeep, its bent front bumper, its muddy tires, the dent in the fender from a long-forgotten encounter with a stone wall in Normandy. "It gets the job done, sir," he says. The major snorts. It's done everyone's job, by the look of it. He's not wrong. This particular Jeep has hauled wire reels for the signal company, towed a 57mm anti-tank gun through a French village where the streets were too narrow for anything bigger, carried wounded men out of a woodlot under sporadic shelling, and once, for a few strange days outside Paris, served as a makeshift taxi for liaison officers and a chaplain trying to visit 3 battalions in one afternoon. It has been a reconnaissance car, a command post, an ambulance, a gun tractor, and a courier. The paint on its hood has outlived 3 unit markings, 4 drivers, and more repairs than anyone bothered to count. Weeks later, when the surrender documents are signed and men like Mercer start to wonder what after could possibly look like, the Jeeps begin to gather in fields and depots. June 1945. A vast vehicle park on the outskirts of Antwerp. Row upon row of Jeeps sit in the summer sun, windshields up, canvas tops folded or missing, some spotless, others scarred. Their engines are silent, their tires slowly sinking into the soft earth. Mechanics walk the lines with clipboards, tagging the worst wrecks for salvage and the soundest survivors for shipment. Some to the Pacific, some home, some to Allied armies rebuilding from rubble. You walk between them, boots crunching on gravel, and see the variations written in dents and improvisations. A welded bracket where a radio once sat. Bolt holes in the floor where a pedestal mount held a machine gun. Faded red crosses, faint unit symbols, names painted on hoods. Lucky Lady, Desert Rat, Short Fuse, Kansas City. They look like they're waiting. In a sense, they are. Not long from now, some will be hoisted onto ships and carried back across the Atlantic, then driven down gangways onto American docks. Surplus sales will follow. Farmers in Iowa and mechanics in Pennsylvania will eye the olive drab paint and see a cheap, rugged runabout, hunting trips, fence repair, hauling feed across muddy fields where ordinary cars bog to their axles. A veteran, like Bill Haskins, will climb into one on a stateside lot, hands automatically checking the clutch, the shifter pattern, the way the handbrake feels. He'll drive it down a quiet country road and, for a moment, the smell of hot oil and canvas will pull him straight back to a night in Tunisia, when the only thing between his patrol and disaster was 40 horsepower and Ford-driven wheels. Some Jeeps will be reborn with new paint and new names in other armies, other conflicts, teaching other generations the same lesson, that versatility is a weapon all its own. What began as a rushed answer to a quartermaster specification, 75 days to design a truck 1/4 ton, 4x4, command reconnaissance, has become something larger than the form it wears. It has proven that an Army vehicle doesn't have to be single-purpose, lumbering, or confined to roads. It can be light, simple, and endlessly adaptable. It can carry radios, stretchers, ammunition, officers, chaplains, prisoners, and hope. It can lead attacks, support retreats, and appear, almost impossibly, wherever it is needed most. Back in that ruined German town, as dusk settles and the square grows quiet, Mercer finishes his last errand of the day. He climbs into his Jeep, the seat springs familiar, the steering wheel worn smooth, where countless gloved hands have rested. He turns the key, the engine coughs, catches, and settles into that same small, stubborn rhythm that has carried him from English hedgerows to French beaches and beyond. For a vehicle that was never meant to be permanent, it has carved its shape into the memory of everyone who has followed its bouncing, tire-cut path. As the Jeep rolls out of the square and into the darkening street, you can almost hear the verdict written in its wake. A temporary Jeep had redefined, forever, what an Army vehicle could do by doing everything it was ever asked to, and more.